Welcome back to Cloud 42, I'm James. We are in the middle of building a carbide insert hand scraper. Last time we turned a threaded stud on the end of a piece of flat bar, and this time we're going to do the rest of the machining to turn that flat bar into a scraper shank. We're going to machine a taper on one end to hold the handle and a pocket in the other end to hold the carbide insert. This is a drawing showing the detail of the scraper shank. The overall shank is shown up here in a smaller scale, and it's just a long piece of flat bar with a taper on one end for the handle and the threaded stud to hold the handle on and for putting attachments on the back side like a body pad or a big palm ball. And the other end has the pocket for the carbide insert. We're going to start with machine the shank, and this is a much larger scale. This is 4:1. And we're just gonna taper down the edges. This is the original piece of stock that we've already been working on. We've already got the threaded stud on one end, and we're just gonna machine down taper on the other end to take the handle, so the handle will tap on and then be locked on with a threaded insert. And then in the other end, we're gonna machine the pocket to hold the carbide insert. We've got the carbide insert here. And so this is just going to be a pocket in the end so that the insert will sit in here, and then there'll be a clamp that holds it on. And so to make the pocket, we're just going to take about the top half of the bar off to create a bearing that the insert can bear back against when we're scraping. And then the steps so we have clearance so the clamp can come down evenly over the top. Now, the back edge of the pocket is curved, and the reason is because there will be a radius ground onto the end of this insert, and we don't want it to be rocking around on a flat surface, so we need to have the ends protrude out. And the radius of this curve is smaller than any radius I expect to have on the insert, so the insert should bear out here on the very edges. Now, I'm going to do this milling with a CNC mill because I have one, but you could easily do this with manual tools. You could make this square and then just insert a little step and machine back in here to leave two little protrusions out on the ends. You could use a large end mill, you could use a fly cutter, you could use a boring head even set at a large radius to cut this. So there's lots of ways to do this. I'm going to do it on the CNC mill. Let's go over to the mill and get started. Now there are probably several ways that I could mount this in here to machine the taper for the handle, but because I need to get to both sides of it and I want to go to full depth, I think the easiest way to do this is going to be using the mini pallet. So let me grab that. Okay, I've got the pallet mounted in here, but now that I'm looking at this, when I made the spanner wrench for the tool post grinder, I cut into the surface a little bit. It's just maybe 5 thou, but one of the pockets is right about where I want to clamp this, and I can definitely feel that I've got a little bit of rock there. So I'm going to go ahead and face this off. This is a carbide face mill that is designed specifically for aluminum with APKT inserts in it. And all I'm going to do is just come down and barely touch and manually make some passes across it to actually clean up the surface. Probably only need to take a couple of thousandths off of it. Okay, that looks good. Looks like we got the whole surface. And it's perfectly flat now. We don't even have to try to dial this in or make sure that it's flat, because since we just machined it, we know it's perfectly flat with the axes of the machine. Okay, let's get this thing mounted. I want to probably fit it in right here because most of the machining is going to happen right in the center of the pallet, and I still need to be able to get a clamp on this end to hold that down. So let me start with that. Okay, and let's put a couple of longer clamps over here on the other end. You'd think a smart guy would have staged all this stuff up in advance, huh? Okay, so I'm just going to snug this down lightly. And the next thing we need to do is make sure that we've got the shank in here straight. And to make sure of that, I'm going to grab a dial indicator. We're actually just going to dial it in. And I'm just going to use a little piece of brass to tap this around. Okay, we're about a quarter thou under, maybe a couple tenths. And it's within 2/10. We are totally good. Now, ultimately, my 0 is on the end of this, end of the threaded stud, which I can't reach right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put another clamp on this just to make sure it doesn't move, and take this one off temporarily so I can 0 the mill. Okay, so that's the other side of the Y, so I'll put it in divide by 2. And the last thing we need to do is get a 0 here, and we'll do that with a shim for Z. Okay, there's my Z0. My offset is set to 10 thousandths. Set Z. Okay, now I just need to put this clamp back and we should be ready to mill. Make sure everything's nice and tight, because I don't want this to move. And that's it. So we're going to come in, mill the taper on each side of this. Okay, I think we're all set up. I've got a 1/4 inch 4-flute carbide end mill in here. We're going to run it at 1800 RPM. And I think we're ready to machine the shank. And I will have my hand on the stop switch as always in case something goes wrong, like the part slips or I screwed up the program. Let's give her a shot. Oh, what do you know? That looks just like the drawing. Got a nice tapered shank, the finish on the edge there. I don't know if you can see that. The finish looks really nice. Okay, now we just need to change the setup, move this whole thing down, and machine the pocket in the other end. You can see the tang, how that turned out. Got a nice taper on there, and the edges are nice and smooth. I just broke them ever so slightly with a file so they wouldn't be sharp, and I think that end is done. Now we need to put the pocket in the other end, and to do that I'm going to mount it here with a couple more clamps. Now this setup is going to be pretty tight on the end just because of the way the drill is going to have to come in and make that hole. So I got to be really careful to set this up exactly the way I had the work holding set up in Fusion 360. Otherwise we'll end up grabbing hold of it or hitting one of the clamps with the drill. There we go. Okay, we'll clamp that lightly, and then just like last time, I'll grab the indicator and we'll dial it in. Okay, we're maybe 1/10 or 2/10 under 0 there. Let's get it going the right direction, okay? And we're at exactly the same spot there. Okay, Y divide by 2. Okay, there we're gripping. Okay, we're going to go back to tool 8, which is the 1/4 inch carbide 4-flute end mill. And we'll snug it down nice and tight just to make sure it does not go anywhere. Very, very nice. Let's see how the insert fits. Well, that is going to be just about perfect. It's almost exactly flush with the top. I can feel the slight burr that was raised, but other than that, it feels to me like the thickness of the insert and the depth of the pocket are exactly the same. And that fits in there nice and square. And of course, there'll be a clamp over the top. Okay, next, we need to grab a drill and put a hole in this. This is a 120-degree spotting drill that we use just to put the hole in the top there. Just a spot for the main drill. Okay, that clearly didn't drill. Let me see, I must have my offsets incorrect. Can I change those now or not? 1216 is 3.716. Okay, so what happened here is I reset this tool and I didn't update the tool table length for the tool. So I changed this in the holder. It had more stick out before, and then I measured it from the shoulder here, but I forgot to put that into the tool table in Mach 3. So I have now changed the offset table and I'm going to rerun this operation. And hopefully this will work. Okay, I got away with that. Learned a few things about Mach 3. It turns out after you scroll back and say, I want to start from this point in the G-code, you actually have to press the Set Next Line button. If you don't do that, it just continues. Fortunately, the next drill was longer, so it wasn't a problem, and I was able to recover. In general, I much prefer to have everything work the first time and not be trying to recover while the G-code's running. Okay, the last tool here is a number 21 drill, which is the tap size for 1032. Now we're actually going to drill slightly through this, which will put a nick in the mini pallet, but that's what it's for. It's a consumable part. Well, that is the machining of the Shank complete. We've got the tapered tang with the threaded stud on this end, and on this end we've got the pocket for the insert. The only thing left to do is a little bit of hand deburring with a file and to tap this hole. I'm going to go ahead and just countersink it slightly. Just put a nice little lead in on the edge using my little Noga rotary deburring tool. And then we're just going to tap this. Now, I don't have a tap guide. I need to make one or I need to get one. I'm just going to do this the easy way. I've got a bubble level on a cordless drill, and I've just got this in the vise so that it's level in that direction and it's level in that direction, close enough. And I'll just run a 1032 tap through this with my cordless drill, which has a bubble level here on the back end so I can align it vertically. course, it doesn't work very well if the chuck's not tight enough. Try that again. There we go. Just another touch just to take off the burr raised by that. That's good. Same thing on the back side. Okay, let me grab a file and take the sharp edges off of this. Got the insert here, and it just fits beautifully in there. Nice and square, rides against the corners, a little bit of relief in the back, and it's just about flush with the top. The only thing we have left to do here is make the clamp that holds it down, and we will work on that next time. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment. I'd like to know what you think. Thank you for watching.